All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? The video I'm bringing you today, I wanted to talk, some macro talk about the Scalebreaker DLC because I've been reading a bunch of things. Obviously, like I've been posting a bunch of videos for you guys, going over the gear sets, going over the skills and everything, and I'm starting to see like the big picture. And my only disclaimer, guys, is just because this is what the picture is doesn't mean that it's going to be executed successfully. This is just what I see. Obviously, there's going to be imbalance. When I'm reading 2 hours of patch notes on day one, and there's so many different changes, there's going to be something that's going to be a little messed up, and like people are going to find little mini things to exploit in builds. But in the grand scheme of things, I really like the change that they're going in this patch, and this video is going to cover why. When I've been reading, comments either on the forums or for friends or on, even the videos that I posted, we have two different thoughts. There's two extreme thoughts. Some people, they watch my healing ward video, they watch my rapid regen video, they watch my video with vigor, and they're like, holy shit, healing is out of this world, insane in the Scalebreaker DLC. Nobody's going to die. Like, that's just insane healing. And then people watch my videos on Soul Splitting Trap, and they watch my videos on Entropy, and then I show the new dot-based medium armor sets, or like the Azure Blight's Plasm and all these other things, and they're like, holy shit, like dots are going to eat people alive. These are two polar extremes of the Scalebreaker patch, and they both can't exist. Either healing's going, if we're going to go to an extreme, either one's going to be too strong or the other one is. They both can't exist in this world. And so when I see these, I see people that are looking at these patch notes, and they're right. They're like, yeah, these things did take a buff. Now, in my opinion, I feel like in general, damage over time effects probably did need to take a buff. And the reason that is if you look at it from a PvP perspective, when was the last time, like a damage over time effect really just impacted your ability to fight somebody? You know what I mean? They're kind of an afterthought now. Most damage over time effects. There's a lot of them in the game. There's only a few that are really good. Like you have Venomous Claw, you have Burning Embers, and then Poison Injection at low health is also good. And then obviously you have your bleeds. Your bleeds are great because they ignore resistances, but they're getting rid of that. And so now your bleeds aren't ignoring resistances anymore, but those are like the main damage over time effects that are actually like pretty effective. I don't even run like Crippling Grasp on my Nightblade anymore because I don't see the point in running it. I don't run Entropy on my bars anymore because I can get spell power pots. I need the skill on my bar. The Sork skill line, their damage over time effects are on the ground. They're kind of useless in PvP. And so a lot of classes just don't have a lot of damage over time effects. Are just kind of underperforming, in my opinion, in this current patch. And so when you combine this tanky meta with relatively underperforming dots, you just have a lot of people that can't really die. And so when I see this increase to overall damage over time effects, yes, they buffed. I think in general, bleeds in this patch are a nerf. If you have high resistances, they are going to be a nerf. But they buffed a bunch of other dots. Obviously, like I said, Entropy, Soul Splitting Trap, Poison Injection is even a buff up front. So those sorts of things are going to be higher damage. But on the other end, guys, they also buffed healing. And so they buffed Vigor, and they buffed Mutagen, obviously, and Healing Ward, like I just said. But what they also did to healing is they got rid of a lot of the group play survival stuff. So Healing Springs is now a pure ground AoE heal over time. It is no longer like an initial burst heal plus a heal over time. So somebody can't continue to spam Healing Springs to keep people up on the ground that, don't have any stamina and can't defend for themselves. They can have the hot, but then they got to do something else. And Mutagen now only impacts one other person instead of two. And so you have Resolving Vigor only hits one person instead of two. And so now you have these AoE heals taking a huge nerf. You have these individual heals taking a big buff in response to the similar big buffs from damage over time effects. And so what I see, guys, is I see openings in combat for large groups or small groups to win fights. And so if I speak from a 1vxer's perspective or a small scaler's perspective, you know, like let's say I'm in a tower and I'm fighting like 5 people, you know, and I'm on the 2nd floor of the tower, they come running up the stairs. Well, if I have Soul Splitting Trap on, I can hit Soul Splitting Trap on all of them. This is now a pretty damn good damage over time effect, and I can go back to kiting. And so this is going to start ticking on them. And now because they don't have responsive healing and all their vigors aren't stacking on each other and basically the skill is doing nothing like it would in the current patch, they now have to respond. And they now have to react to the damage over time affected by them a little bit more closely. And so yes, you know, they can have a healer there with Breath of Life, but since this dot is more effective than any other like dot in the game currently, that healer is going to have to spam a lot of Breath of Life to keep his other 4 buddies up if they decide not to heal themselves. And so all of a sudden, the Magplar might have an opening because he has low magicka, and now I can CC him and I can drain him of his resources. If they don't have somebody that's responsibly healing like that, I wait for somebody to not use one of their strong heal over time effects to drop to half health, and I leap on them, or I drop a Dawnbreaker, or I get off my combo. You know, if you're responsive with your healing, this next patch, in my opinion, you will be able to respond to these damage over time effects. If you're not responsive, and you're not, you know, I'm just going to say it, if you're not a very good player, these new effects will eat you alive a little bit. And they should, you know. You shouldn't just get off healing from other groups. You shouldn't just be able to, like, you have to learn how to kind of defend yourself. And so this is why I'm so excited about this patch, guys, is because when I see these dots and when I see these heals, it's like, okay, well, these are corresponding with each other, but not everybody keeps vigor up 100% of the time. You know, you have to have some sustain in order to build that type of healing. And if you have that kind of sustain, then your overall vigor ticks are lower, your damage and burst is a little bit lower, yada, yada, yada. But I digress. My point is because most people don't keep hots up all the time, like your vigor ticks, you're going to find openings to potentially take people out. And so you're going to have this give and take situation where people start taking damage and they heal and they start giving damage and like you have to heal, and like you're going to have these spots. And I think in general, more people this next patch are going to be able to die than elsewhere. And so obviously it's PvP, people should be able to die. And so that's just kind of the way it is. It's a tanky meta like currently, and it's cool to see us finally starting to get out of it. Now, as I said, guys, I don't know if this is how it's going to work. You know, maybe the dots actually are too strong. You know, I see the buffs and the dots, and I'm like, okay, well, I can't fit all of them on my bar, and even if I can, you know, I don't have any burst. And so, you know, you need some sort of burst in most builds in order to kill large amounts of people. So I just see effective tools added to the toolkit to allow you to survive, you know. And so when I see the healing and I see the damage over time, I see a more reactive combat where people are going to take damage and they're going to have to dish out healing in order to survive. So whereas now it's like, you know, if you can be running in a group of 5, and if you got your buddies spamming mutagen, you got your group and they're spamming vigors, and you get hit with like a poison injection, it doesn't really matter. It's not going to do anything to you. Like, you can be as bad as you want at that point, but if you're in heavy armor, you're going to be kind of hard to be bursted because you have all these off heals around you, and you're kind of tanky. You know, now this patch, you're not going to have that sort of support healing that you used to, unless you have a build healer scaled into it to kind of give you that support, which is, you know, fine by me. So those are my thoughts on this patch, guys. Hopefully I explained myself well. As I said, you know, just because that's the plan doesn't mean that that's what's going to be executed. That's just what I see. If you guys see something differently, you know, please comment in the section below. Like I said, I'm really excited about this patch. I think it's definitely going in the right direction. We're going to have some bumps and bruises. Obviously, at some point, they have to address Cyrodiil performance and get some big changes in that direction, but that's not what this video is about. This video is just about combat, and I like the combat changes. I think the combat changes from the combat team are pretty damn good. So, thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.